everybody on Instagram, right? But YouTube, you could.
Three Dudes Fantasy Football Podcast Draft Special. What it do? I'm JJ Bucks.
Steven Masterson.
The Chicago Bears are on the clock. It's got to be Caleb Williams. He's the only quarterback that they brought in for pre-draft. It's been this way for the past 2 years. Looking forward to this draft. Chicago Bears made the trade last year as Carolina jumped up to number 1, took Bryce Young. Chicago got their number 1 pick this year, and guess what? It was the number 1 overall pick. So new era in Chicago. Caleb Williams looking dapper, sitting there smiling. First, let's just start with the football expectations for Caleb Williams going into that Chicago offense because C.J. Stroud changed him. That is a once every maybe 10 years type of deal, but that's what Caleb Williams has on his shoulders now. Is hey, C.J. did it in Houston. You go take the Bears to the playoffs.
Well, this Bears team is good enough to do it. Like they have the first overall pick not because they were the worst team, but because So like they have Keenan Allen and DJ Moore and Cole Kmet. Their offense looks decent, and they lost 3 games by 1 score last year, so they have the potential to be 10-7, not 7-10. Like very easily could have been a 10-win team. So it's not the same as like when you walk into. It's not the same as like when you walk into a 1-win team or a 2-win team. You're walking into a decent team with a good core. But we just keep. We are trying to deal with technical things here. Right? It's the first time we've ever gone live, so you guys have to look at Jason's face very closely. But we are still waiting for that pick. I don't know. The whole point of this draft though is.
Oh, when you change the audio settings, actually talking to the microphones, it's amazing. It is amazing.
Are we good now?
Yeah.
Now they can hear us?
Are we actually talking?
Yeah. Well, now I can see it, yeah.
Yeah. So.
No. So what I was saying though is not only is Caleb Williams exciting, but I'm actually excited for this whole draft as a whole, right? As from a quarterback perspective, because it should be exciting to see Jaden Daniels and Michael Penix and Drake May and Bo Nix. Like there's a potential that we could have 5 quarterbacks going in the first round. So
I think it could be 6 in the first round. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's not impossible. I could even see somebody trading up.
Bo Nix, Michael Penix. Because the thing with quarterbacks
JJ McCarthy
is that they're pushed up big. And it's the way the league is structured right now. How about that? The stat we see right now popping up. The Bears have never had a quarterback go 4,000 yards or 30-plus touchdowns. And it feels like that's just like a given that someone's going to go for 4,000 yards now.
Yeah. It's insane. Still have that stat. Quarterback-driven league for quite a while now. There was a point where I literally thought Jay Cutler would have done that with Brandon Marshall.
What do you think about – in Chicago Bears, they've done it right. They didn't hit on all cylinders with Justin Fields. Or they waited really too long to invest in that offense. It wasn't until last year until they acquired DJ Moore. But they get a chance to redo it. Matt Eberflus and company, the general manager, they go get Keenan Allen. They go get DeAndre Swift. I just think let's look at them from a fantasy standpoint this season. With Caleb Williams, kind of what's the kind of floor? Let's start with Keenan Allen this year. Do you think are you tagging him in the 3rd round? What are we looking at? Because it seems like he could still be a PPR machine for a young quarterback. But let's start there. Keenan Allen and redraft this upcoming.
That was a tough one because I like where you're saying PPR, he definitely is going to have value. They got a lot of mouths to feed and it'll be interesting. I don't know where. I don't know if targeting Keenan Allen that really. I just don't. I just think there's too much going on in the Saints. Yeah, DJ Moore.
Should be talking about a wide receiver at number 9 potentially as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. But okay, so we talked about this before, though, right? How many times does a young quarterback lean on a veteran?
Right.
And so you're right. You don't want to take him too early. It's hard to find that balance. But one of Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, they'll be the guy.
Where I see Keenan Allen, in my opinion, is going to be another, and it's probably on a higher end, but the Adam Thielen kind of situation. It's like he's going to be solid. He'll be solid for probably a good portion of the season, but it's a long season. The one thing you always heard with Keenan Allen also too is scoring touchdowns. Doesn't necessarily score a lot, at least on the Chargers. So that's one thing that hurts me.
Yeah. But it's hard to say. Like it's hard when you're projecting a rookie quarterback to know how they're going to do. You know what I mean? Like DJ Moore is a big threat, like a big play threat, and so even if he's not the lean on guy, he has the potential to take any pass for a touchdown. All right, here's the Bears pick.
No surprise. There it is. Caleb Williams officially a Chicago Bears. We're talking about 6'1", 214 pounds, got athleticism, can make the off-platform throws, going into a really good offense. Probably not on the fantasy radar this season, but as we look at the quarterbacks that will go, is he your number one in Dynasty, or do we kind of have to wait and see? Could that switch based on what happens with 2 and 3 here?
In a super flex, are you talking about number one overall pick or number one quarterback? Because in a super flex, I will take Caleb Williams as the number
Let's
one.
talk about that, because that is something I'm really not accustomed to, and I've not played in a lot of 2 quarterback leagues very often. And of course, in 2 quarterback leagues, every starting quarterback is on the table.
Right. So in a 2 quarterback league, if I'm doing a dynasty part of it, Caleb Williams is going to be number 1 overall, right? And then it's probably Marvin Harrison and Jaden Daniels, or however you want to draft it. In a 2 quarterback league, just a normal redraft league, I don't know if Caleb Williams, he's further down the list. You're probably taking him. You're probably trying to take a stud quarterback, and then further down, I'll take a chance on Caleb Williams. But I'm probably trying to draft somebody else too.
Yeah.
And in a redraft league, I'm probably more looking for the guy who scrambles more. I'm probably more interested in Jaden Daniels, like Anthony Richardson last year. Yeah, that's it from my perspective.
So just overall, though, Caleb Williams, there's going to be ups and downs.
Right.
It's going to be a rocky season, but I feel good. Like, I think there's a solid quarterback is going to develop in Chicago. I think to your point, it's what you have to realize. Like, this isn't your usual number 1 overall pick, because it is a football team that they're still the 9th overall pick, but he's not going into nothing.
Right.
And so I think this is a very good destination for Caleb Williams, or if it was even Drake May, if any one of these quarterbacks ever went number 1 overall, like, I have confidence that Chicago actually knows what they want to do moving forward. This is
on paper, and it's like the pieces are there. So
Chad is saying that Caleb Williams is a bye-week fill-in, right? So, okay, I can see that. Bye-week fill-in. But I think Caleb Williams has potential, and I would have no problem stashing him, because you never know if you get a CJ Stroud out of him. And he's a player I'd want to keep for 6-7 weeks just to see.
And I know it's hard to do too in 1 quarterback league. Not a lot of people like to sit on quarterbacks, but I think now the question is, we'll wait and see what they do at 9.
Yep.
But I think that you have solid floors. Like, I'm looking at, DJ Moore, he's probably more wide receiver 3 territory for me to start the season. Keenan Allen, I think, is a back end wide receiver 2. Near your point, try to trust that guy.
Yep.
I do think the one I wait and see on a little bit is Cole Kmet. I pushed him down my rankings, but I still think that even with a rookie quarterback in Chicago, there's a solid floor there for those pass catchers.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think so. I definitely do see that.
I'm more interested in Keenan Allen than I am in DJ Moore, like you said. But that doesn't mean I don't like DJ Moore. Because I do think DJ Moore has the potential at any given time to take something to the house. And because of that, I do like, even if it's just a check down, which we could see a lot of. It's hard to tell. Caleb Williams was a big play quarterback when he had the opportunity. And so
Well, that was a lot of USC too, and that's the challenge of the draft. Is it's saying, hey, do they have a foundation we like, plus projecting them to do things in what you're hoping is a better offense with more talented players, NFL coaching, and that's the challenge of projecting players out. Have you seen them do something versus can they do something? And if you watched any of the USC games last year, it was shootouts. Like that's the football they played. They weren't scoring 40 points. They probably weren't going to win that game. But one thing I do want to talk about too is we're in it, we're head first. How would you start your football team? Because we are armchair general managers right now. This is what we do.
Heck yeah.
With this podcast.
I'm a real general manager of my fantasy football team.
General manager of fantasy football team.
From an archer. All right, whatever. Whatever.
So I kind of have this philosophy. Let's go just kind of real football talk here.
Okay.
Of what I'm looking for, especially in the first round, top of the first round. Quarterback?
Yep.
Do I need a quarterback? If not, then I'm looking at protecting said quarterback and getting to the quarterback.
Okay.
So those are the top three for me. If I'm saying, all right, I'm starting a franchise, these are where I go. If I was an NFL general manager. And so we're seeing that right now.
So, yeah, you're 100% right. Okay, so I think the way to think about this, and this is how I've always thought about it, you remember when we were younger, we got to see the Jaguars and the Panthers and the Texans all start, right? And they all had a very similar strategy. It was either take a quarterback or take a Tony Baselli. Take somebody to protect the quarterback and we'll draft a quarterback. But you have to have a quarterback. So I think you're right on take a quarterback or protect your quarterback. You can take a lesser quarterback if your line is good. Because in the NFL, a receiver will get open if you give him enough time. Good quarterbacks are Patrick Mahomes, who can make a play happen out of nothing. But those are far and few between. So you do need a line. And I've always believed start with a line and try to find the right quarterback for your team.
Yeah, because you've seen what happened with David Carr. You've seen what happened to Andrew Luck. It's, they're taking a beating because they didn't necessarily have great lines to start with. So
yes,
it's definitely, that's an important spot. It's like your quarterback has the ball majority of the game, but
he touches it every play.
Yep, you need to protect him, even if he's not making the best plays.
All right, here's the pick is in for Washington. All right, so we all have said it's Jaden Daniels, right? We all think
Jaden Daniels is my number 2 quarterback.
Yeah.
I am not far off the rankings. Like I don't have a guy that I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm way off consensus.
So this is important because we had a guy in our Dynasty chat ask us how we felt about Jaden Daniels. So I think this is like one of those things. Hey, let's talk about it. He's on the clock. They're in.
Sure.
I think this is a great pick. If I'm being honest, I love this pick for Washington. If it's Jaden Daniels, I think that's the right play. Let's see. Here it is. Here they're announcing it right now. Washington Commanders take Jaden Daniels. So
don't mess with it. Like sometimes we knew it's Caleb Williams, it's Jaden Daniels. What I like about Jaden Daniels is he looks slight, but he's 6'4". He is a better passer than Lamar Jackson was coming out of college.
Yep.
And so he has that.
Yep.
And then I love his athleticism. Like that matters. Don't take that away from him. So if you've got a guy that legit has Lamar Jackson traits, not just because he's fast and can run. Like watch the way he plays, how he maneuvers himself in and out of the pocket. That's what Lamar Jackson did this year to take a huge step forward. Was winning from the pocket first, then getting outside. This is that first guy I believe that he has those traits.
And I agree with all of those. And he's actually walking into a great situation. So again, this is a situation where you're still walking into Scary Terry, Terry McLaurin, and Johan Dotson. I don't think he's walking into a bad situation. He's got two decent wide receivers. They obviously need to work on their line a little bit, but this team wasn't bad. And 2 years ago, they were.
It's an offense where you can have confidence in Jaden Daniels and have him on your early watch list. Look what Sam Howell did last year.
Yeah.
Now, there were points where Sam Howell was leading the NFL in passing.
Yep.
Now,
Never thrown the ball.
I mean, new coaching staff.
It's new coaching staff, but that shows you the pieces that they had. It was Terry McLaurin, it was John Dotson, Brian Robinson is there. They brought in Austin Eckler.
Yep.
Another veteran voice for him. And now, of course, protect him.
100%.
That's the next thing for the Commanders. But I love the upside of Jaden Daniels. I've been a hard 1B on him. Like, actually, to me, there's not a large gap. Like, I'll give you Caleb Williams 1A, but I was legit 1B on Jaden Daniels. Then I have, Drake. Like,
So
I think
this is the Andrew Luck RG3 draft again.
Yeah.
We've made that comparison before, right? Because
yes,
Andrew
I
Luck
think
was 1A.
I do, as Robert Griffin is an elite athlete.
Yeah.
I do think Jaden Daniels possesses the needed passing skills. He's not
Yes.
like Robert Griffin was. Can he become a passer? Lamar early on was all right. We get better in the pocket. I think he has that base already.
Right. He's. I get you. I 100% understand what you're saying. I am saying when we look at from a draft perspective, not a player's perspective, draft perspective, it's 1A, 1B, and then we're going to have a third quarterback come off. That draft in general was Andrew Luck, RG3, Ryan Tannehill, Russell Wilson, all involved in that draft.
Kirk Cousins.
So
The Commanders backed up RG3 with a rookie that year.
So-
We're gonna draft RG3. We're still gonna draft another quarterback.
still have the second overall pick, still took an athletic
Here's
quarterback.
one of these teams.
Okay, they even compared him to RG3.
I don't like that. Give me Lamar.
Yeah. Of these teams.
Of these teams that we're expecting to take a quarterback, do you think any of them do that?
Back up the quarterback?
We definitely have. We haven't. I don't think we've seen that since that draft.
If Minnesota stays,
That's a great question because
didn't they take Trey Lance and Brock Purdy, or was Brock Purdy the next year?
my memory is not good enough. I'm old.
Oh, I can look it up for you. I have it in my quarterback.
Yeah, I was like, I'm pretty sure but it could have been the next year.
Brock Purdy was 2022.
Okay.
It was, yeah.
So if anybody's going to, it kind of comes down to, I think, one thing. I think I could see the Vikings, if they do not trade up, taking a quarterback to backfill, because then they're gonna take a quarterback. It's gonna be a Michael Penix or Bo Nix where they're picking if they don't move. Then I could see them backfilling with a quarterback later. If any of these teams move up, no, they're not going to. And New England made that pick quick, so they obviously knew they were taking Drake May.
And this is one where you say you're open for business, you listen, and say if someone offers you,
Yep.
like 4 first-round picks
Yeah.
to move up, something along those lines. But to me, I do think that Drake May, this is a good position for him. The Patriots are a bad offensive team.
Yep.
But they said to Jacoby Brissett, here's $8 million for 1 year. Quarterback us through this. We bring in Drake May. We start building.
Yeah.
And this is one where I'm okay with sitting the quarterback. Most of the times, if you get one of these guys, go let him play.
Yeah.
This one makes a ton of sense. If Robert Kraft, who they're showing on the phone right now, if he's talking to Drake May, like, I'm on board with this pick.
Yeah.
13.9 points per game last year.
I think Drake May make sense. You have to start your franchise over, and that's where they're at. So just going back real quick, because this pick isn't in. Somebody did mention that the RG3 didn't work out well for Washington. I think it's important to remember it did that first season until RG3 tore his ACL. I don't think we have that same issue with Jaden Daniels because he gets out of bounds well. And he knows how to slide. So it is important I just want to make that comparison real quick.
Well, it's
RG3 didn't slide.
I don't think it was because RG3 couldn't play. It's what happened with his knee.
Because once
I
his knee
I still remember though when him trying to go back out there and play on that knee. And then
the injury ruined his career.
that threw everything.
If he wouldn't have played in the playoffs, he probably comes back and looks better. All right, Roger Goodell is walking up to the podium right now. So
I love it. If you know who you're drafting, send it in. Like, let's go.
Yeah, there's no reason to prolong this unless you, like you said, if
Unless
you
you're waiting on trades.
Make
Yeah,
all
but-
you wait the whole entire time.
Drake May, there we go. Nothing has surprised us, right? So we knew it would be 3 quarterbacks. We kind of knew who it was going to be. Nothing right now has thrown us off. This is where it gets interesting, though. Yeah. Who do they go? You know, is it does Arizona make this
Trade?
pick? Do they make a trade?
So the Arizona Cardinals have 11 picks in this draft. They have 2 first-round draft picks. They're on the clock here at 4, and they also have 27, which they got from the Houston Texans. Houston was a ridiculously aggressive team last year, getting C.J. Stroud and then backing him up with Will Anderson Jr. Going back right there. If I'm Arizona, I'll take the phone call, but I'm comfortable taking Marvin Harrison Jr. right here because this is best player available plus need. And this is another thing I'll throw out to you guys as we mix fantasy spin into the real life football talk. Especially if you're in the top 10, let's get the best talent. I think this is one where I don't want to reach for a need if there's higher graded players there. And this one for Arizona, it makes sense. You have the need versus
The need actually meets the best player available.
best player available.
So I've always felt in the first round you should always just draft the best player available because it doesn't matter. You can never have too many good pass rushers or too many good corners. And the teams that always reach for that offensive, I need to get an offensive tackle. Those offensive tackles never work out, and it's those GMs that end up not having a job for long. So best player available should always be your first round pick. Second, third, okay, fine, draft for need because if they aren't first round talent, you're probably reaching a little bit for them. That's fine, but first round should always be best player available. I'm also, though, if I'm Arizona, I'd rather trade out of this spot. I understand he's the best player,
Okay.
But if I can get more picks, that's
You
what I
got
want.
11, man.
Yeah, but you just keep
Stack 'em, bro.
stacking. And I'm not trying to move far. I'm not trying to get down to, but if I can get 11 and 23 from Minnesota, that's what I want to do, especially if you give me a first round next year. More talent
But
is
at
better.
some point,
You have to make a pick.
you're passing up elite
Generational
talent
talent,
just to say you have an extra draft pick.
Okay, but if you have 4 or 5 great wide receivers on your board, like round 1 talents, maybe they're not.
I think there's 3 legit dudes.
Okay. So
So it's
if-
Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Roman Dunsey. Other guys, maybe, but
they,
I want one of those guys.
but they might have Brock Bowers
I mean,
on there too, and they
if-
could trade up to 9 and only move up 2 spots and probably not give up that much.
You grab one of them.
Just wait until the 6th round and draft the backup tight end out of Iowa.
Well, I'm not saying I'm saying what I would do though. Let's say Roman Dunsey is still on the board at 9. If I can move up 2 spots with them, then I'm interested in it. Arizona's not a receiver away, and that's why I'm saying
No, but you invest in Kyler Murray.
That's
There's
true.
nothing there. We're sitting here talking about why do we like Caleb Williams? They have Keenan Allen.
Yeah.
They have DJ Moore.
Give
There's
him
Cole Kmet.
So what if you don't believe
you
in
have
him?
$100 million plus quarterback,
Right. What if you don't believe in Kyler?
then they would have figured out how to move him,
Yes,
or there would have
I
been
was like,
conversations that he's on the block.
They paid it.
Well, because it's a new coaching staff, right? So here's
No,
my
it's
argument.
But they had Kyler last year.
And he got hurt.
So
So
he was hurt going into the year.
right.
Yeah.
So but he hasn't played much, and so this coaching staff hasn't seen a lot of him. What if this is their prove it year? Because this is the
I'm
coaching
Then he
staff.
sure it
needs
is.
someone to prove it.
Give him some help.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So I get it. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying what I would do. I would try if I could make a trade 11-23 in next year's first. I'm making that trade, especially if you throw in 34. So if I can get 3 essential first round picks, I can then give Kyler more.
Look at that. Drafted 1, 2, 3. Tim Couch, Donovan McNabb, Achilles Smith.
Wow, only one of them worked out.
1999.
And again, only one of them
Yeah.
worked
Trevor
out.
Lawrence, Zach
Let's
Wilson,
go.
Trey Lance.
One of these guys isn't going to be good.
Here it
It's
is.
going to happen.
Caleb Williams.
This is the whole thing that we love about the draft, and it's what you talked about. It's hope.
Yeah, I hope. It's miserable.
It's the player, their talent, their work ethic, the coaching staff, the investment in it. And that's why I go back to, if you want a quarterback to succeed, give him weapons. And to me, when you're looking at Marvin Harrison Jr., which is widely regarded as an elite talent in this draft.
Yeah.
You
You just
already
take it.
have another first round pick at 27. Don't mess around.
Just take the best player.
Take.
I think I'm coming around to your side.
This is what we're doing all first round.
Yeah.
We're having these debates.
You're not wrong.
Which-
You're not wrong.
I'm
I do want to point out, Terrence says that Drake May sucks, and it's probably because he's a Dolphin fan. So
I believe our shout out to Terrence, appreciate you. My
and
guy.
Joe
He
Joe
is-
agrees with you.
He likes Miami.
Yeah.
So he's a Hurricane fan.
Yeah.
Miami, North Carolina, ACC rivals.
Yeah.
So he's throwing that in.
Who is it?
All right, here's our pick.
No trade.
No,
Pick his in.
so it's got to be Marvin Harrison Jr. Yeah,
Keep it
Bam.
simple. Keep it simple.
keep it simple, stupid.
Now
That's spicy.
it can get fun.
Yeah.
Because JJ McCarthy said this week he enjoyed his visits with the New York Giants the best. He had the best vibe with the Giants, with Brian Daboll. They're sitting there at number 6. And so
Yeah, you
now
know-
Jim Harbaugh, this is the trade down spot for me.
This is Jim Harbaugh missed the bat. He should have made the trade we talked about. Justin Herbert should not be on their team.
Oh, that would have been.
JJ completely disagree.
I love it.
You can say your piece.
He's been playing a lot of Madden.
I've been playing too much Madden. I trade Justin Herbert, get him to the Vikings, give me 11 and 23. I take JJ McCarthy, and then I take 2 more wide receivers.
Steve should have
Fantastic.
been on draft day.
I do agree with you. The Giants, if I'm the Giants, even if it's just
To guarantee yourself.
that's and now if I'm the Chargers, I'm saying to the Giants, I have other people on the phone. Do you want this pick or not? Give me a third, a second. Just give me extra
We're
capital.
getting next year's first.
I don't even think you're going to get that much, but you can pull. You might be able to get this year's second.
Even for one spot.
And tell them, hey, I've got picks. I don't need to make this one, and there's good talent. I think that's what you do. I think
And
that's what you do.
Then let's look at Marvin Harrison Jr. This dude, he's going to be on draft boards already because the first wide receiver taken, the first running back, they're going to be hyped up.
And his name.
And his name.
Oh, yeah.
And plus, Marvin Harrison Jr. is 6'4". Like he ain't his dad.
No.
Like this dude is.
My point was his name is Marvin Harrison Jr. We saw how amazing he is, and we all experienced Marvin Harrison.
But that's what I'm
as
saying.
a
That's
kid.
it's
But he's taller. You're right,
like
and he's
he's
a little.
6'4", 6'3.25". Like you put your cleats on it, you're 6'4". He's got separation ability, he's got 50-50 ball ability, and this is dude now going into an offense that Kyler Murray has nothing, and this dude is going to soak up targets. So to me, it's easy. If you've listened to our podcast, seen the stuff we put on social media, by the way, follow us, 3 Dudes, Fantasy Football, Instagram.
You're
do it out
watching
there,
here on
on
YouTube. so-
YouTube. I'm really in drafts as many wide receivers as humanly possible in PPR leagues. I think I selected 9 receivers in our draft last year. It's my thing. And Marvin Harrison Jr. to me right now, as we speak, before camp, anything, I would slot him in as a wide receiver 3, no problem, with wide receiver 2 upside, because Kyler Murray is going to fall in love with this dude, and he's going to see all of the targets he can have elsewhere.
Well, just to kind of piggyback off of, like I was playing devil's advocate there, but we saw what Kyler Murray did with Hopkins when he was down there. He has no problem just saying, you're getting the ball a lot. Sorry. So you're saying wide receiver 3, wide receiver 2 upside. I actually see him as a wide receiver 2 with wide receiver 1 upside.
Well, but I think that's. I think even going into the draft, you can get him at that price with the highest ceiling.
Well, so Jamar Chase and Jalen Waddle, when they came out, I'm using them as examples because they were the last ones to kind of go this high as wide
Was
receivers.
there? Do you know their ADP?
So Jamar Chase went in the 6th round and Jalen Waddle went in the 7th. I think that's what we're going to see out of Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr. 5th, 6th
I think it might
round.
even be a little bit more.
Maybe.
I would be really comfortable if that
4th round, 5th round. But I'm just saying.
I'm looking at talent plus opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, but we could have made that same argument with Jamar Chase. He had Joe Burrow as his quarterback, and he still went in the 6th round. And he went early 6th. That was his average ADP. But I think you don't want to overdraft him, but I do think that I'm comfortable in the 5th round, but I get people want to take him in the 4th.
Well,
I won't argue with you.
It just depends on what your strategy is. Like for me, I'm thinking if I'm sitting there in the 5th round, my ideal draft at that point would be I have my wide receiver 1 and 2s locked, possibly even 3 with dudes that I'm willing to start every week, and at least maybe an RB1 that I'm all in with.
Yeah.
And so if I check, because that's kind of my thought on drafting is I don't want to necessarily get caught up and go, oh, this guy's 27 versus this guy's 34. I want to think of it from my perspective. So I'm looking at my fantasy roster.
Yeah.
Like who am I starting every week? 1, 2, 3. And
I
so
love
even
that,
even in the 4th round, if I go wide receiver in the 1st and 2nd.
Yeah.
And maybe in 3rd round, right? You're going 0 running back strategy.
Yep.
So you got your 3 starters established. You take maybe 1 RB1.
Yep.
And then I'm looking at these guys with upside.
High upside. I don't hate that. And I mean, you could use that in almost, and just to kind of piggyback a little bit too, I would even be okay if you went like wide receiver, tight end, and then went one of these guys. You know, like if you're like, hey, I'm just loading up on pass catchers. And our league's a good example. If you can start 3 wide receivers, I'm okay starting Marvin Harrison as my wide receiver 3 comfortably.
Yeah.
But I'm also okay starting Marvin Harrison as my wide receiver 2 comfortably. So that's what I'm saying, right? So a few questions in the chat have been about like where do you think he goes, that kind of stuff. I am comfortable if I go, depending on my draft, let's say I end up with pick 2 and I go with Christian McCaffrey and I have a good wide receiver who falls to me somewhere in there, and then another decent running back I have up there is there in round 3. I'm okay if in round 4 or 5 I'm looking at Marvin Harrison Jr. as my wide receiver 2. And that's kind of where I'm saying is I'm comfortable if he's wide receiver 2. I just don't want him to be my only good wide receiver. I do think he has potential, but I think what'll happen is as we get further from the draft, he's going to fall. And so what I think is he's going to be near that Jamar Chase level, that 6th round pick. Because that's where Jamar Chase went, and everybody said he was going to be great, and then he had a bad preseason. You remember, Jamar Chase had all those drops.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, oh. And then he came out and looked like Jamar Chase. Something's going to happen. He's going to fall a little bit. It's going to be, Kyler Murray and him aren't getting along. There's just going to be some report that comes out. It's going to drop him a little bit. But I think at the end of the day, if you go, hey, we know what he's good, we know his potential, I'm okay with him at wide receiver 2.
I get worried that he might be overvalued because of the name, just because of that.
I think we will
The
see a lot of
Cardinals,
that.
that's
I do
literally
think so.
my feeling. It's like he's gonna go. If you want him, you're gonna have to pay for him.
Yeah.
And that's my pause on him a little bit. Hopefully, we'll see. Kind of evens out. But
And I think one of the things too we found, we'll do it as we get later in the 1st round, is kind of have the debate of who the number 1 overall pick is going to be in a dynasty draft.
Well,
Like that's amazing.
in the chat is one of our dynasty players, and he has the number 1 overall pick, and he already said he's taking Marvin Harrison Jr. He literally tanked this year for Marvin Harrison Jr. He told me he was tanking for Marvin Harrison Jr. So you know what? I bet it's Marvin Harrison Jr.
That is Marvin Harrison Jr.
Most of the rankings have it Marvin Harrison Jr. and then Malik Neighbors and then Roman Dunze. There's no running backs usually in the 1st round from what I've been able to gather.
Yeah, well, I think when it gets to dynasty drafts, we'll see a couple names pop up. This draft, I don't think we're going to see a running back selected in the 1st round.
I don't think we see one in the 1st or 2nd.
So the longest it went where no running backs were selected,
See, Joe's even agreed.
I believe it was 54 picks before a running back went.
Okay, so it still was the 2nd round?
So number 54 in 2014, the Titans picked Bishop Sankey. He was the 1st running back selected that draft. And that's the longest there's been in a draft without a running back being selected.
So I made an Instagram post, and this is just it needs to be restated. For the last 5 years, a rookie running back has ended in the top 20 in PPR scoring. One of these rookie running backs will have an impact on the draft, like on your fantasy team is what I should say. It's James Robinson in 2019, 2020. It's the Chargers are making a pick. Wow, we can get back to that point. I just want to see who this pick is.
No, it's important to look at past year's rookie performances.
Right.
As we're trying to project.
You just have to find the team that
Next season.
fits, right?
What?
They said, you know what? We don't need a
So
running
like-
game or a passing game. We just need a tackle. But we just said
Wow.
you need to protect your quarterback.
That's just my strategy. I love it.
Yeah.
Quarterbacks, protecting the quarterback, rushing your quarterbacks. But I did not think the Chargers were going here. But they understand. Jim Harbaugh, this is what he wants to do.
Look at that base, though.
What did they do? Jim Harbaugh. What did they do?
They have great running.
They run the football. So Jim signed both of his brother's old running backs, Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins,
God, you did.
on the Los Angeles Chargers.
I'm glad you said that because I didn't even
I
realize.
didn't realize it either until he said that.
You're right.
So this is going to be fascinating for the fantasy football value of Justin Herbert, because Justin Herbert might actually be in a better offensive situation, but have
A worse
lesser
fantasy.
numbers this season. Because they just got Joe Alt, the left tackle from Notre Dame. This is one of those selections
619.
where it ain't sexy, but this is how you win football games. Protecting the quarterback. That is a large human being.
Joe Alt is a potential. He's one of the few players that I have seen people talk about.
6'9", 321.
He has, but his athleticism is insane. They are talking about him having the potential to be a future Hall of Famer
Did you hear me say that?
because of you said that, but they've also been saying that about how
He's a new breed of tackles.
right. He's
Guys are crazy.
reminded of Tony Baselli, and we talked about that guy.
And so, you know what? I love the pick. I was shocked because I was thinking wide receiver trade back for sure
And they take
for
Joe
the Chargers. And how about the New York Giants sitting there? They didn't have to do anything.
No,
And they can draft J.J. McCarthy now.
Yep.
But who knows? I love this pick for the Chargers. I think that Justin Herbert is going to be in a better situation. They still have to find some people to catch passes.
yeah, because that's what
they
chat's
don't-
asking. Who's
Right now?
Who's Herbert throwing to?
But you know what this does is I'm all about Gus
Protect the
Edwards.
quarterback. Gus Edwards season.
Zero, especially if I'm going zero running back, which I'm a zero running back guy. If I'm sitting there, I'll start Gus Edwards every single week. Feel fine about it. Maybe play around, see what kind of.
So are you going to take Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins and just because they both get hurt?
I would go Gus Edwards first because J.K. coming off the Achilles,
Well, yeah, but I'm saying like you take J.K. Dobbins to back up Gus
and then if
Edwards.
like
They made that
I
call fast.
I literally hate both of those running backs. I've literally
did
dropped
you have a
it,
Gus
and
Bus
it's like-
last year?
And then he was hurt.
You won a championship.
No, I didn't have him on that.
Who had it?
I
I
think
thought you had the Gus Bus. Did you not? You don't even remember the team that won you the fantasy football
No, because-
championship?
Whoever it was, they were injured.
no. Okay, so here's the thing though, and so Chad is asking this, and I think this is important. Okay, Gus Edwards is great. They could draft a running back.
Like Corum, second round.
Right, like
University.
there's no rule that says they can't. That pick came in quick.
I love it. These teams are not
They're
messing
excited.
around.
Hey, this is going to make
no, no, no.
staying
We're
for our
moving.
live draft a lot easier, and you guys can just listen to us talk all the time. J.J. McCarthy. So they signed Daniel Jones to a pretty big contract,
But the
They have a
the
lot of
big
outs,
money
though.
doesn't kick in until next year.
and they can void it, right?
They were uneasy about that because they also signed Drew Lock. And in Drew Lock's contract, it's reported that he had a lot of playing time incentives. So why would you give your backup quarterback and tell him that, hey, we're going to load your contract with playing time incentives, and your backup's like, sure.
Drew Lock.
And so they're already uneasy on Daniel Jones. He's coming off a knee injury, tore his ACL last year. But this is one where I really wasn't thinking about it, and then it started picking up steam. Brian Daboll resetting.
Well,
getting
Brian
his
Dable
guy.
did get a quarterback. Yeah,
Yeah.
He got stuck with a
He
quarterback.
got what he could out of Daniel Jones, and then Daniel Jones got hurt. Now, if Daniel Jones doesn't get hurt, I don't think the Giants are taking a quarterback.
Well,
No.
they don't have this pick.
But
No.
I don't even think they're talking about Bo Nix or Michael Penix.
So here's my point, though. I think this is a great spot for J.J. McCarthy because Brian Daboll he's a quarterback guru.
He's worked when Josh Allen came out. He was the dude that's like, all right, you can throw a football over the mountain, but that's it.
But his accuracy was like 60%, under 60% in
Yeah.
college.
Wyoming, shout out Wyoming, Mountain West football. But then Brian Dable
Made him
helped
great.
establish him.
Yeah.
And I think what you're looking at with J.J. McCarthy, well, it doesn't have those elite traits. He's already more efficient. And then can you get sparks out of it? But it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It's
They took
Malik
Malik
Neighbors.
Hey, you know what? You know what, JJ? They said, all right, we're going to make our quarterback.
Said that, like 2 months ago.
They got so happy.
Yeah, they were so
They
happy.
had to take Malik Neighbors.
Yeah, so you're right. I kind of fell into the hype of, they're going to take J.J. McCarthy. They're going to take J.J. McCarthy. But 2 months ago, I said, get him a receiver and make it work. I mean,
Kevin O'Connell, Sean Payton. Who's sweating more right now?
Sean Payton.
Because it's Minnesota 11, Denver 12.
Sean Payton.
and Oakland, Las Vegas, what if they trade up? They could trade up and try to grab one of these.
You know, credit. These are teams sticking to best player available. And, Joe Alt, you look at him, I'm looking at right now of all the rankings at Jordan Reed, ESPN NFL Draft Analyst, Joe Alt was his number 5. So that's another team that was able to match, best player available with need. And same thing, Malik Neighbors right there on the heels of Marvin Harrison Jr. and the Giants. They're going in with Daniel Jones coming back, and I still think this might even just be a 1-year thing for Daniel Jones. But Malik Neighbors, we just talked about Marvin Harrison Jr.
They can't believe it.
Would be.
They're stoked.
I think a lot of people thought Neighbors was going to LA too.
Yeah.
Right there. Now Neighbors, I don't have him as a wide receiver 1, 2, or 3 right now. But he, when I start spamming rookie wide receivers, he would probably still be number 2 because then you're talking about Brian Daboll has shown you he can, when he has a quality quarterback healthy, have a consistent offense.
Well, and Brian Daboll, when they got Stephon Diggs, made a huge improvement.
Josh Allen.
Yeah, and I think Brian Daboll's offense. So if them getting rid of Saquon makes sense to me, if you really look at what they had in Buffalo, right? Because that's where his roots are. That's where everything comes from. He needs a wide receiver 1, and then he just needs other players to be decent. They have that. Now they have a wide receiver 1. Malik Neighbors could actually, crazy take, could have a better season than Marvin Harrison Jr. because I think Brian Daboll's the better coach. And I think he just designs offenses amazing. So I could see him having a massive season because of where he landed. Not because he's the better talent, but because of where he landed. And sometimes that's just as important.
And you're going into a Giants offense that, there's not a true number 1. Keep an eye on, maybe does, Jalen Hyatt become more of a thing? The speedster at Tennessee, because he can play maybe more of that wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, and Neighbors steps up wide receiver 1. There's a giant question mark with Darren Waller. You can't trust him. He was hurt all last year. He's still deciding if he's going to play football or not next year. And Saquon Barkley in Philadelphia.
Yeah. It's just, I'm just excited, for this offense a little bit now.
And this is one thing. There's certain, Ohio State, LSU, they produce ballers on the outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do got to give a quick shout out to a Dolphin great who is at OSU, Brian Hartline. He's the wide receiver coach. That dude he's coached some great wide receivers, and it should be noted that those are important. Brian Hartline.
You know where he was at too? He played the Ohio State University.
I know. And then he went back and coached and looked. He has turned out over the last few years some of the best wide receivers that come into the league. They're already ready. And you could see that again with Marvin Harrison Jr. He's coached amazing wide receivers. You go and look from whenever he joined. Dang, Tennessee's already made their pick too.
So we're 6 picks in, and pretty much credit to everyone that watches football because the top 6 picks are been pretty much a consensus top 6 players.
Yeah.
But I'm looking down, and
in some order, yeah.
So we've seen Caleb Williams go to Chicago, Jaden Daniels to Washington, Drake May to New England, Marvin Harrison Jr. to Arizona, Joe Alt to the Chargers, and then right there Malik Neighbors to the Giants. And they're going in with the talent.
Is Ramaduze the next pick? Because he's
So this one I saw a lot of people mocking the Titans to Joe Alt.
right.
For them getting there.
I mean, that
Franchise
would
that
make
Well,
sense.
there's still
I
a
wouldn't.
offensive tackle in the top 10.
Yeah,
They have,
so you brought it up.
Fasano.
Titans Romadunze? No, because what did you? They gave Calvin Ridley
Calvin
the
Ridley.
bag.
Too much
They
money.
bet on Calvin Ridley this offseason. They have Nuke Hopkins there.
Yeah, you're not going.
Oh, they are.
What do you think about let's
They're
talk,
going to take an offensive tackle.
since we're on a commercial break on TV, let's look at the Titans running back room next season.
Let's not.
Let's do.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
We're
Because
looking-
Sign Tony Pollard in the offseason.
Pollard,
This is going to be a 50-50
yeah,
split. Tajay Spears. But you have to put it out there because guys like me, I'm not going to draft running backs.
you
So
got to
that-
look at Tony Pollard and
I'm
Josh
gonna be in the-
Spears.
like who's going to be my RB2?
Oh,
And I think it's a coin flip. And
that's great.
hope if you have one of those
Gus
guys,
Edwards, J.K. Dobbins.
I would go Gus Edwards before any of those two guys.
I would.
But also, when we saw Tony Pollard in a split with Ezekiel Elliott, he was very productive. So why wouldn't he be a productive RB2
He's lost
in
his
that
step.
offense?
The Titans.
That's just what I believe in.
That's true.
Tony Pollard is lost.
Tony Pollard
It's the only explanation.
already Zeke. He's already lost his step apparently.
Or he's just not able to handle 250 or 300 carries in a season.
He didn't even get through week 1. I just don't. You're not wrong. I don't know. It's so hard. I don't have a good opinion here because I don't like either.
And
of
that's
them.
the fun thing too. There's always players that we just will not touch. But you're not having a great player at every position on your fantasy football team.
If you're winning championships, you are.
Well, the dude had Gus. He doesn't like Gus Edwards. I think Gus Edwards was honest.
I think it was.
I'm pretty
He
sure.
said trash talking Gus Edwards. So
I don't care.
like,
He needs to do better.
where's the trophy, by the way?
Yeah, you're supposed to bring it. Like, what are you doing?
Where is the trophy?
It's on my desk.
I guess we are at your house. Like, you
I
can
know.
just get it. Yeah.
We need to put the trophy right there. Just show
I'll
it.
just hold it.
Hold the trophy. A fantasy football champion. It is a fantasy.
I don't have any.
Three Dudes Fantasy Football Podcast
Trophy.
NFL Draft Special.
I don't know. You're not wrong. I don't know the Tennessee's new coach well enough to know, like,
Brian Callahan.
yeah, but I don't know what
He
his.
comes from the Zach Taylor tree. He's at Cincinnati. So
And that's where I'm like, but-
think about it. What did they do?
well, you don't
Lean
have,
on two wide
but
receivers.
you don't have Joe Burrow.
Well, you're trying to develop all levels. That's what I'm saying. What did they do? They went in on Calvin Ridley. They have Nuke Hopkins. Joe Mixon was a workhorse for Cincinnati. Now he's in Houston. Zach Moss with the Bengals. And so yeah, it's if you have Tajay Spears, Tony Pollard on a team, it's going to play a wait and see approach. But those are guys that if you're drafting a certain way, are going to be on the RB2 radar.
So
If you're like me,
you
who
feel it's
I'm
like
probably going to draft maybe one running back in the first 10 rounds, and then roll the dice.
God bless. If you take
Like that, roll the dice.
Well,
Fantasy times on the clocks. Roger Goodell walking out. How do you like Roger Goodell, man? He's got the buttons undone up top. He's hanging out with Eminem,
yeah, I mean,
bailing it in the digs.
Detroit was popping.
it was. You know that. Look at. I told you tackle
Tackle.
J.C. Latham, but he was not a player I expected to. I actually saw a lot of mocks with him going to in the 20s. So for him to go in the top 10 is interesting.
John 6'6", 342, the offensive tackle out of Alabama. And the one thing you do see, though, with tackles, there's a very good success rate of these guys getting drafted and staying with their team. There was a great post by Himbo. If you know who Himbo is, if you listen to ESPN Radio, he's a stats guy who works with Mike Greenberg, does everything on GitHub. Let's pull that out. So he posted this on the X today. And this was from 2000 to 2019. It is players that were drafted in the first round that then went on to sign a second contract with that team. So it was a dude that they're like, well, we got the right guy. We're going to re-sign him.
Yeah.
Of the 64 offensive tackles that have been first-round selections, 38 have re-signed. That's the second best hit rate. So 59% of the offensive tackles that should like stick around for a second contract with their first team. Now, center is 92% hit rate, but that's because there's only 12 centers drafted
in the first round.
in the first round, but 11 have stuck around. So when you're drafting tackle in the first round, you are getting a dude that's going to be with your franchise for a while.
So the thing
really pretty good rate.
The thing that's a little misleading about that stat, and I'm just going to use the Dolphins as an example. We've drafted 3 tackles and moved them to guard.
Yeah, but no, this is with signing a second contract.
Right, but we
regardless.
move them to guard, and then you call them an offensive tackle, and it's a guard. You know what I mean?
But it's an offensive lineman that sticks around.
Fair enough. Okay.
So you're getting a productive.
There's
player.
a better chance that they'll stick around because offensive linemen are.
The worst is the one we're having the most fun with.
I know.
Wide receivers?
77 wide receivers in the first round, 27% hit rate.
But that's just re-signing with their current team, right? Because like AJ Brown.
But part of that too, AJ Brown, Tyreek Hill, players like that. But still, these guys are coming in 21, 22 years old. Either year 3 or 4, they're good enough. Resign them. That's a pretty
Honestly,
big mix rate on wide receivers there.
the one that's the most surprising to me is actually edge.
Yeah.
The fact that 104 have been drafted and it's almost a 50% hit rate is pretty impressive because that's the other thing to take into account, right? Like, yeah, center looks the best because 12 have been drafted and 1 didn't resign.
Yeah.
But, like same thing with tight end. But overall, like the fact that that many people from the edge have been taken and re-signed her, that's impressive to me.
And because the receiver one's interesting. You look at past drafts, they go back to 2020. And how about this for the first 2 receivers off the board in 2020? Henry Ruggs,
Ouch.
I believe, is in prison now.
Yeah, he's just
Jerry Jeudy, who got traded and signed a big contract, but there was a lot more going on in Denver. But they just never had that offense right. Then it was CeeDee Lamb, who Dallas, you got to pay the dude. Like, if you're waiting, he's just going to get more expensive.
well, we just saw Amon-Ross sign him.
Got the biggest deal, most guaranteed money for wide receivers. Then it was Jalen Reagor, Justin Jefferson, Brandon Ayuk. That was your first round in 2020.
Man,
So it's all over the place.
all those people missed out on Justin Jefferson, huh?
First pick of the second round, T. Higgins, followed by Michael Pittman. And so this is one of those things where there's going to be a boatload of wide receivers taken. And you're just going to have to get lucky. Because the first round guys, which is going to be Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, and Roman Junze. Like, I'm talking to the top 10 to 12 guys. Like, they're going to be talked about. They're going to be in your draft boards. But when you get to round 8, round 9 of your fantasy football draft, there is just luck involved if you want to start spamming rookie wide receivers. Because when you look at
Brian Thomas.
Yeah, Brian Thomas is going to be their probably first round guy. But it's a whole Puka Nacua situation. No one drafted Puka Nacua. So one of these guys we're going to miss on, and you got to jump on him on waivers. And Puka Nacua was a league winner for most people that had him. Or you're like me, and you traded him, and you miss out on a fantastic keeper. What can you do?
That'll happen.
But I get a fantastic keeper because my team sucked and I was trading for the future.
Yeah, so when you get to the back end of the draft, how do you guys feel about potentially that strategy? Maybe going 2-3 rookie wide receivers versus the, Tyler Lockett, Tyler Boyd of the world, veteran wide receiver 3s versus unproven guys.
My mindset has shifted. So I used to be a big, take the low floor or higher floor, low ceiling. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, have a safe floor. And the reason it's shifting is because over the last few years, we have a player in our league who takes all the rookie wide receivers and they end up having a great season every time. And so I kind of want to switch a little bit and try to get more of those guys who have upside. And then if they suck, I can cut bait. But if not, I have a great player that I drafted late.
And me, it really depends. Generally, I'm not.
Oh, what? Michael Penix to the Falcons?
He can't even believe it. He's like, what?
Before it. Oh, my gosh. There's the surprise. That is not what I was expecting at all. Not even JJ McCarthy.
Dude, didn't they just give Kirk Cousins $100 million guaranteed?
You're drafted for the future.
They just Aaron Rodgers that guy.
Like, this is 2-3 years down the line type deal.
So I have my sunglasses on.
And they're happy about this?
Well, okay, hold on. I like Michael Penix.
These
So remember,
war rooms are
so
interesting.
remember, I had him as my number 3 quarterback. So I do like the Michael Penix. I get their thought process. If you can get it's a win now. We think our team's good enough to win now, and we're setting ourselves up for the future. It's what Green
Give the
Bay.
dude 100. Green Bay drafted Jordan Love at 27.
Yeah, and they took Aaron Rodgers the couple years before that. If you don't think you're going to have him for a long time, why not? If you think he has the potential to be a really great quarterback, why not let
You
him
were
sit?
picking 8th overall
Yeah.
before you gave Kirk Cousins $100 million guaranteed money. That's money you're not getting back.
Okay,
What are we doing with Michael Penix Jr. at 8?
we're letting him sit for a year or two.
You don't give a dude $100 million guaranteed money to play 1 year of football.
In this
I mean,
NFL, you do.
No, you don't.
could.
They
I mean,
just did.
That's what I'm questioning the Falcons. If the
He
Falcons
has
did
to
this at
stay-
28,
He has to stay healthy.
I'm listening to your conversation.
There's literally no ACL injury, his age. Everyone comes back from those pretty good, but it's also Kirk Cousins. I'm also worried. Yeah,
Then
okay,
why?
sorry.
Okay, I don't. If you were worried, why did you guarantee so much money on that contract? That's the difference. It's not one where it's like, hey, we signed him a 4-year deal, but we can get out. I need to look at these guarantees, guys.
It's 100. It's 100 and some odd million.
I
Yes.
think they signed what they knew they could get, and draft day you don't know.
Okay, so this is the point of
If you
Kirk.
don't think you get Michael Penix at 8, you should lose your job.
Here's the point with Kirk Cousins' contract, though. It's 2 years where it affects the cap, and then the third year it doesn't. So you're guaranteeing Kirk Cousins $50 million a year for 2 years,
It's not bad.
which you then have Michael Penix. Michael Penix is a little older, and it is important to note, like I think he's 23, going to turn 24 this season. So
Yeah.
he's going to be
So
26.
you're backing up the dude coming off the Achilles injury. The guy's torn his ACL twice.
Yes.
Yes.
That's
And the Bears pick is there in too. I thought they were going to trade out of this pick.
That's what I was trying to get to when I said ACL.
No, that is
because I was literally
I appreciate that point, Steve. Because if you look at it that way, that's actually what quarterbacks are getting per year.
Yeah.
On the upper end.
Right. It's a
$50
$50 million a year for 2 years. So, like, that was kind of where we're getting kind of stuck. We all get stuck in that, like, oh, this is how big the contract is. Quarterbacks get $50 million. That's just what they get. So you're going, hey, for the next 2 years, we have this guy. We're going to let Michael Penix learn. And then
Look at you being in love with other guy.
I know it's
Look
weird.
at you.
Nobody agrees. Everybody agrees with you. So nobody agrees with my take. But
I'm usually the only one. It's just Steve arguing.
Jake, thanks, Aaron, for just letting me hang out to dry. I get what you're saying. I do agree with you, and I 100%. But if you don't think next year's quarterback class is good, which that's the indication, and you think you're going to pick higher, take the quarterback you could see having the future with. Even at 26, when Michael Penix takes over the Falcons, 26 is at least 8 years in the NFL because a quarterback can play till 34. So I go, hey, I have 2 years to see, and if on the 5th year I have the 5th year option, I like him. I sign him to a 5th year deal. He's still under 30. I love him. I love the potential, and my team never takes that, oh, we got to rebuild because I have a quarterback of the future already in the wings. Green Bay has done that for the last 3 years, and I loved
when
it.
he took over for Favre.
He was 27.
Yeah, he was older, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't remember.
So
being-
like that's the thing. Would you rather be Green Bay where you're like, hey, we have